Finance number 2 bill 2014. Now the finance number 2 bill deals with the taxation proposals of the government. But as per the rules of the House, on a motion that the finance bill be taken into consideration, a member may discuss matters relating to general administration, local grievances within the sphere of the responsibility of Government of India, or monetary or financial policy of the government. So I am first dealing with one or two points outside the ambit of the finance bill. Firstly, I had mentioned in this House the demand for West Bengal government for a moratorium on the interest payment on the outstanding debt of the state government. Like the previous government, the present finance minister has said that only the Finance Commission will be able to decide on that. May I make a plea to him again to consider the demand of the government of West Bengal for a moratorium on interest payment. This morning, sir, Sudip Bandyopadhyay, our member, he mentioned, our party leader mentioned the plight of the 6 tea gardens. 5 tea gardens are closed. The Chief Minister has written to the Commerce Minister, and it is necessary for the Government of India to intervene and take proactive steps to open the tea gardens. May I reiterate that demand of the state government again. May I also point out the jute industry, which is the biggest industry in West Bengal, employing 2 lakh workers and which involves 4 lakh jute farmers, is in very bad shape due to the dilution of the mandatory order for jute packaging, which was done by the previous government and which is being continued by the present government. I would request the Finance Minister to consider withdrawal of this dilution of mandatory packaging, especially in case of food, fertilizers and sugar, so that the jute industry, which involves us closely, can survive. Sir, the other point I want to make is that the Finance Minister has presented the finance bill, and since he presented the budget, we are listening to many of his speeches. He has said in one speech that he is a worshipper at the deity of growth. We are not against growth, but we believe in growth with social justice. Pursuing growth alone will leave the millions of poor people unfed. I would request the minister to please change his approach and not go after growth only. Also, I want to mention that as a party we are opposed to foreign direct investment in certain critical sectors, which include defense, which includes insurance. And we had opposed in this House, after we left the government, FDI in the retail sector to save the livelihood of millions of small traders. I request the Finance Minister to reconsider the government's approach on allowing foreign direct investment in this very vital sector. Having said that, let me come to the taxation proposals of the present government. Any government, madam, has to levy taxes, so has the present Finance Minister. The expenditure of the central government has come up to nearly 18 lakh crores. Now, the minister is trying to raise resources to meet this expenditure. How is he doing that? He is doing that by levying taxes. What are the percentages? He will get 13% from direct taxes, 10% from excise, 9% from customs, 21% from corporate taxes, corporation tax, and 24% of his total expenditure he will be borrowing. Now, I'll go later into this. He has not tinkered much with the overall percentage. It is the same percentage which Mr. Chidambaram's budget laid. Now, what does the Finance Minister do with the budget? Why are people interested? Because the Finance Minister, apart from the expenditure proposal, can give relief to certain sections of the people through the budgetary proposals, which he has done. He has given income tax relief to the middle class people from 2 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs. I always felt that a little more relief would be welcome. if he raised this limit to 3 lakhs. He has also extended the limit for senior citizens like us from the present figure to 3 lakhs. I would request him to increase that to rupees 3.5 lakhs. He has also given some relief for encouraging certain activities. Now this relief, there are 2 reasons. One is he is putting about 5,000 rupees more in the hands of the ordinary taxpayer. His hope is that some of it will come into savings and raise the savings rate. The other 2 steps he has taken, good reliefs, is for self-owned houses. He has increased the relief on investment from rupees 1 to 1.5%. On public provident fund, the ceiling has also been raised. Both these are welcome because these are reliefs and will increase the savings. Sir, yes, the finance minister also gives excise reliefs to certain extent, certain industries, so that they can do a little better. Also, he reduces customs tax so that certain import of certain raw materials for essential industries become cheaper, so that these industries get some relief. That is exactly what the finance minister has done with his budget. Soaps, deodorants, cosmetics will be cheaper. He has obviously given much importance to personal hygiene. Also, packaged juices, tin fruits and tin meat has become cheaper. Footwear below 1,000 rupees, which is owned by poor people like us, has become cheaper, which is also welcome. Also, the cathode ray using TVs have become cheaper. This is used by poorer people in the rural areas, which is a good thing. Personal computers, LED, LCD TVs below 19 inches, they will become cheaper. This is again a welcome step. It will strengthen the hardware manufacturing capacity in this country. Now the finance minister has also given reliefs. He has enhanced his tax net. Naturally, he has to look for sources to earn more revenue. He has to pay for the huge expense. He has to pay Sardar Patel's statue. He has to pay for certain spiritual augmentation programs like Prashad. So all that pressure is on him. So he has to enhance his tax rate. Now he has brought more items into his service tax net. One of them is, sir, madam, the AC buses, travel by AC buses. Other is advertisements on mobiles or on the internet. They will now attract, I'll come to that. They will come and they will become costlier. That also cannot be taken exception to. These are good steps. He has increased his tax net in the service tax matters. He has also done one clever thing, that for foreign people who are investing in share markets in India, they were avoiding paying tax here. What he has done, around 1/10 of the foreign investors were claiming that their securities transactions were part of their business that was taxable as business income. They are further claiming exemption from paying this tax under the double tax agreement entered into between their country and India. These investors will now have to pay capital gains tax on their profits on securities transaction. This is also welcome. You brought them into the tax net. The other thing that is welcome, he has also said that there will be no reprieve for foreign investors routing their investments through offshore tax havens such as Mauritius or Singapore. They were earlier claiming exemption from capital gains tax. Now they said that double taxes avoidance agreement. Now these people will also have to pay tax on capital gains, which is again, I said, a welcome step. But now, instead of talking about the small tinkerings with taxes that the finance minister has done, I also want to mention one important thing for our state. Now, we have, in reply to my question in this House, he replied that details on goods and services tax, he wants to introduce it by the end of the year. But the concern of the state governments about revenue loss has to be looked into properly. The reduction in central sales tax at the centre's direction resulted in a loss of rupees 4,300 crores to West Bengal Exchequer, as the promised compensation was not given. So far as GST is concerned, safeguards against any revenue losses states might suffer should be part of the constitutional amendment so that compensation cannot be denied through executive fiat. The dialogue about GST should continue until the state's legitimate concerns are met. So this is the other point. Now, let me tackle the broad view of the taxation policies of the government. Having said all that I wanted to about my state, let me comment on the broad worldview of the taxation policies of the government. Now, first, what we find is that the union government's total expenditure to GDP ratio has seen a noticeable drop from 15.7% to 13.9%, further shrinking the fiscal policy space available to the government. 2, you have no comprehensive roadmap to step up the country's tax to GDP ratio, which is at a low level of 17%. If I may mention, the tax to GDP ratio in OECD countries is 33.8%. In Brazil, it is 33.2%, and India it is 16.3%. So no effort to raise the tax and gross domestic product ratio has been made. There are no measures to address the lack of progressivity in the country's tax structure, which depends on indirect taxes to the extent of almost 2/3 of the total tax revenue. I mentioned this point earlier, that a progressive tax structure will mean that you will tax the rich more and reduce taxes on the poor. Now, indirect taxes, madam, applies to everybody, rich and poor. Direct taxes is directly taxing the rich people. If you look into the figures, in no advanced country of the world is tax system so retrograde as in our country. If you see India's direct tax revenue as a proportion of total tax revenue at 37.7% is far below G20 average. We want to see that the high table, G20 average of almost 50%. Developing countries such as South Africa, it is 57.5%. Indonesia, it is 55.8%. Because you're not yet ready to increase direct taxes on the rich. Now, how this happens really, that you know that there was a surcharge introduced by Mr. Chidambaram on income tax of the super rich introduced last year. You have retained that. But we are against surcharges because the state does not get a share. But you have continued to neglect progressive property tax reforms such as reintroducing inheritance tax and reforming wealth tax. Madam, the main shocking thing, this government comes out with a book called Estimate of Revenue Foregone. And the estimate of revenue foregone says that the total revenue foregone due to all kinds of exemptions in the central taxes is projected to be rupees 5.73 lakh crores. That is the amount big companies are getting as exemption. And that is equivalent to 5% of the GDP. The budget proposals do not have any strong measure towards reducing the amount of tax revenue foregone due to the plethora of exemptions in the central tax system. We are afraid to tax the super rich. We are afraid to tax the big corporates. That's why I always say that the philosophy of the present government seems to be a little inclined towards so-called growth and a little inclined towards corporates, which I do not appreciate. Madam, we are talking of reducing black money. Now, this budget does not mention any steps to strengthen administrative machinery of various agencies required to address black money related issues. Staff shortage in such agencies pegged at 30,000. How will you recover the black money? They don't have staff. CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, have estimated the staff shortage at 30,000. Madam, there was a lot of controversy on retrospective tax amendment which was introduced when Pranab Mukherjee was finance minister. The corporates were very much against it. But let me say that, Madam, I'll finish. The white paper on black money published by the Ministry of Finance in 2012 noted that the Vodafone tax case was an instance of misuse of corporate structure for avoiding the payment of taxes. Against this background, the retention of the retrospective amendments is welcome. He has announced, Finance Minister, that all cases arising out of retrospective amendments will be further reviewed by a high-level committee. Not many corporates will support you on this, but I support you on this. Vodafone should not get away buying a company abroad. The money must come to India. Whatever the newspapers owned by big business may shout, please stick to this power, sovereign power, to have retrospective taxation. Mr. Nishikanta Dubey, sir, almost sounded like the spokesman of the corporates when he said that minister has put this by mistake. No, Mr. Dubey, madam, no, Mr. Dubey. It is the sovereign right of the government of India to have retrospective taxation and catch the people. So madam, all that I want to say, that the focus of the government should shift from growth to social justice. The focus of the government should shift from placating the corporates to catching the tax dodgers. And he should have more effective means of recovering taxes in the interest of the poor.